for the
The
benefit
thing
of
is
all.
that
Yeah.
people are in panic,
Good
in
news.
depression. People are very much in panic and in
Makes all the
depression.
difference. The best way to predict future is to create it. Take a move. Create a future. Join Shobhit University.
As a young citizen of India, armed with technology, knowledge, and love for my nation, with a vision of transforming India into a developed nation, I'm joining Shobhit University. What about you?
Gunjan ma'am, please start.
Yeah, sure, sir, sure. A very good evening to you all, respected authority people, worthy deans, HODs, my colleagues, my dear participants, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all here at the 12th Co-Learning webinar on pandemic and sustainable management. At present, we all are facing tyranny and cruelty of COVID-19. And sustainable management in all the aspects of life is very necessary, and it is an important part of one's ability to maintain the quality of life and smooth survival. So our worthy speakers will throw light on the topic in detail. So first of all, I would like to introduce our worthy speaker of the first half of the session. I would like to invite first Madam. So Madam Dr. Caroline Hensing is a professor emerita of industrial engineering at Iowa State University. She resides in Vista, California, Rishikesh. Sometimes she loves to stay at Rishikesh in India. Madam and Dr. Sharma, both are principals at the Universal Peace Institute, which they established in December 2010 after the ITMS 2010 conference in Gwalior, India, where they met with a vision. The institute focuses on environmental issues such as the current global climate crisis, focusing its impact on the Ganga river in particular. She received her PhD from Stanford University in 1798 in mechanical engineering and taught at MIT in nuclear engineering from 1978 to 1984. She joined State University, Iowa State University in 1993 as a professor of industrial engineering. So I would like to invite you, ma'am. So please throw some light, throw your scholarly observation on pandemic and sustainable management. I welcome you, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
Thank you.
Over to you, ma'am.
Pranam, and can you hear me?
Yeah, you are quite audible.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me to this wonderful webinar on the timely topic of COVID pandemic and sustainability. You mentioned that I graduated from Stanford University. I wanted just to hold up that the current Stanford University magazine is all about the pandemic and about what we can do about it, and how Stanford University and most major universities in America are beginning to start new colleges that focus on the pandemic. And you can see in the graphic, there's the corona bat, and here is a camel. The reason for that is it's these animals that are passing the viruses to the human beings. And so we know from this book, David Coleman's Spillover, that was written before the COVID-19 pandemic, that the spillover from the zoological animal world is causing the viruses and the diseases to come into the human population. The reason for that is climate change. Human beings are creating climate change, and here's a book by Professor William Calvin at the University of Washington in the US about extreme weather and how climate change is changing the environment, and the animals are moving north. So the coronavirus bats from which the COVID-19 came from, these bats moved north into the Wuhan area of China, and they proliferated. They enjoy the warmer weather, and they're growing in the caves. And so this is the reason that the bat population exploded due to climate change. And we know that the COVID-19 came from those bats in the Wuhan area of China. Now, the thing that's happening right now, I want to talk about what's happening in India, because the Indian variants of the COVID-19, the 117 variant in particular, has now been designated a variant of concern by the World Health Organization just this weekend. And the chief scientist of the World Health Organization is an Indian woman, and she came out just yesterday talking about that covariant. Her name is Soumya Swaminathan. Dr. Soumya Swaminathan is the top scientist at the World Health Organization, and on Sunday, yesterday, she stated that the Indian variant, which is known as B.1.617, could be accelerating India's devastating second wave of the pandemic. And as you are more aware than I am of the incredible speed at which COVID-19 is spreading. So the information and the data that the World Health Organization is collecting from India is finding that this variant, which dominates in the state of Maharashtra, where the second wave of India's pandemic really began and exploded into other cities, including the national capital region of Delhi, so that India reported over 4,000 fatalities for the second consecutive day yesterday. These are the official numbers, but we all know, as the Indian government admits, that this is an underestimate of the actual number of fatalities. In every country, including America, these numbers of fatalities and cases are underestimated because it's impossible to test adequately. And so the official number of cases yesterday reported by India's government was 403,738 new cases in the last 24 hours alone. Those are the official numbers. And by some estimates, the actual number could be anywhere from 5 to 10 times higher. So this is a devastating second wave that is exploding in India. It's also exploding in other countries around India, including Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and into other Southeast Asian countries, and including Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Burma, or Myanmar. So it's a regional explosion, and this is going to continue for at least another month, if not longer. Now, Dr. Ram Sharma and I, we've been collaborating together, as you mentioned, since December 2010 when we met at an Indian-sponsored conference in Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh on climate change. Now, at that time, we were focusing more on the impact of climate change on the rivers and on the glaciers in the Himalayas and on the monsoon system. We were mainly focusing on, these extreme weather events, which include floods and drought. But now with the pandemic, the focus has changed a little bit, quite a bit, I would say, to focusing on these animals that are carrying these diseases. Now, the other thing I was going to mention is what Dr. Anthony Fauci said yesterday, because we're in a crisis in the world. It's not just India and Southeast Asia, it's the entire world is in a crisis right now because of COVID-19. It just so happens that India is at the focus of this crisis at the moment. But there are concerns in the World Health Organization about an explosion that could occur in Africa. In the continent of Africa has around 1.2 billion people, and similar issues to India with regard to handling the pandemic. So we are not out of this crisis. We are far from out of this crisis. And a luminary such as Bill Gates has mentioned that he thinks that the world will not return to any level of normalcy before the end of 2023. So let's just talk about what Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's the US top scientist on the COVID for President Joe Biden, he said yesterday, there are 3 things India must do to get the second wave of this pandemic under control. He stated first, the first priority must be to continue to vaccinate as many people as possible with both vaccines, the COVID Shield and Covaxin Indian-produced vaccines do work against the 617 Indian variant. And he stated reasonably well. Now, I won't get into the details of that, but the point is that Dr. Fauci says number 1 priority for India right now should be to continue to vaccinate as many people as possible using both of your own vaccines that you are producing, as well as supplies from other countries such as the USA, the Russians who have the Sputnik vaccine, or whatever country is willing to supply the vaccine. Secondly, he states that India should shut down the country in a lockdown for a few weeks to break the transmission of the disease. India did this at the beginning of the first wave of the pandemic back in March of 2020. And you were very successful at keeping COVID-19 under control for the year of 2020. The third thing that Dr. Fauci suggested yesterday is you need to seek your armed forces help to set up makeshift field hospitals as if you are in a wartime situation so that people can have hospital beds. And this was done in China when the COVID-19 pandemic first broke out. In China, the Chinese government set up many field hospitals and they were able to control the virus. Let me point out that the numbers that the Chinese government reported for their levels of casualties were grossly underestimated. So around the world, it's known that, again, there are underestimates of the number of casualties and the number of cases, and that's true also in the United States. So these are the 3 recommendations by Dr. Anthony Fauci as of yesterday for India. First, vaccinate as many people as possible. Use your Covishield, use your Covaxin. They are reasonably effective against the Indian variant B.1.617. Use any of the vaccines coming in from other countries, including the Russian Sputnik vaccine. Second, shut down the country in a lockdown for a few weeks. I know in India that's happening in many areas, that the chief ministers of various states are introducing lockdowns and curfews. In the state of Uttarakhand, where I spend my time in India, I know the chief minister of Uttarakhand is ordering shutdowns in all the major cities of Dehradun, Haridwar, Rishikesh, and others. They're also going to make an announcement today, the chief minister of Uttarakhand, about what's going on in the villages high up in the Himalayas, because the village people in India are now experiencing an outbreak. So this will also create a situation for the chief ministers in each of the states of India to deal with this in a way that hasn't really had to happen in the first wave. So I wanted to say that in the midst of all of this, growth and unexpected nature of the COVID-19 second wave in India, Dr. Swaminathan from the World Health Organization said that it's not just the Indian covariant that created this, but it's partly due to the COVID variants in India, which are very highly transmissible, and they are now called variants of concern. But that it also had to do with, she said, with the kind of reduction in worrying about the COVID disease, and that many Indians became comfortable without wearing their masks, without doing social distancing, and some of you were involved in the rallies, political rallies, and some of you were involved with going to Haridwar in the Kumbh Mela. So these kinds of events, big rallies for politicians, those were considered super spreader events. And the Kumbh Mela that occurred in March and April in Haridwar brought in 5 to 10 or even 15 million people who, you know, I've been in those kinds of spiritual pilgrimages, and these people come from everywhere in India. They walk along the roads, as you know, and they come from the village, a lot of them. And so imagine that what happened was a combination of Indians believing that you had solved the problem, but only 2% of the Indian population has been vaccinated. So it really means that everybody in India has to become serious about this, especially the Indian young people. It is true that the virus impacts people who are older, over 60 years old, and there's a higher likelihood of death for older people. But the younger people, with these new variants that are happening, there are more younger people who are dying from it, who are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And there's even children who are now dying from COVID. And even if you don't die from it, if you get sick and you develop a case and you have symptoms, you can develop what's called a long haul disease. And in America, we have many people who have suffered from the disease and they're still not recovered. They're not fully recovered. So what am I going to say next? I'm going to say there is hope. There is hope because of Indian tradition and your tradition of yoga and your traditions of good health and Ayurveda. I do see that Swami Ramdev, for example, who is a guru well known in India, he is promoting yoga, and that is something Dr. Ram Sharma will talk more about, I'm sure, that focusing on Ayurveda, focusing on good health, focusing on nutrition at this time is essential, but also to control your stress. As Dr. Ram mentioned earlier, at this point, I'm sure you can tell me, but in America, when we had our wave of COVID earlier in 2020, there was a lot of panic as well. There was a need to manage the anxiety. So that's where meditation can help, and where the spiritual practice of India will bring you through this. So am I within my time limit here? I can end with that. And I do believe there's hope. Yes?
Yeah, Dr. Carolyn, you please carry on. I think you can cover your topic in 25 to 30 minutes.
Oh, how much more time?
Still you have 10 to 15 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes? Okay. Well, then I can talk more about the impact of climate change on COVID-19 and other diseases and what we need to do. I'm speaking to the young students from India who are studying various fields. So what we need to do in order to prevent future pandemics is we need to focus on sustainable development. And I was going to read something that was quoted from the Stanford University article. So is there hope? Is there hope? Because we're looking at a future where pandemics are not going to just happen once every 100 years. They're going to happen more frequently. And we're now in this global pandemic, which has devastated communities and left us hankering for good news. Because when you go on your cell phones and when you see the news that's coming out, the news is horrible. And so we need to be, especially young people in the world, need to be hopeful that we can solve these problems. And I personally believe the young people of the world will solve these problems. So the focus now has become more on the global pandemics, and there are many types of diseases which can be found in this book. It's not just coronaviruses. There's many other types of diseases that are carried by various animals. So we need to become prepared. We need to develop new innovations. They're talking about a coalition for epidemic preparedness innovations. And we need to develop 7 high priority vaccines for the Nipah, the Rift Valley fever, the chikungunya, Ebola viruses, Lassa, MERS, which alongside Ebola helped pave the way for the rapid creation of the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. And we need to also focus on something called Disease X, which is not a vaccine per se, but a platform from which future vaccines could be developed, because we have to keep in mind, we may not know every disease that is out there. So among some of the COVID lessons is the importance of developing treatments for viral infection to save lives until vaccines are created and distributed. And that's one of the things that the United States just sent to you through the Joe Biden administration. As part of COVID-19 relief to India, the Biden administration sent you over $100 million of relief, and that included remdesivir, which is a medicine that can be used to treat more critical cases of coronavirus infection. So that's what Stanford is talking about, is that not only do we need to develop vaccines and have a vaccine platform that can be used and modified very quickly to deal with the variants, but we also need to have these treatments available. And so this is a field that, you know, is generally in medical schools and involves medical students. However, students of all kinds of backgrounds in engineering and in other scientific fields can work together to develop these kinds of centers, research centers that will address all of these topics, including the political issues, because as we've seen in the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had the World Health Organization involved on a global level, but we have seen different governments that make decisions, and they're making decisions based on the politics of the particular country. So in India, one of the things that just happened to you is you were in the middle of your political system of election, and that itself created situations with these big rallies and people working at the polling stations that caused people to gather together, and not everybody was wearing a mask, nor were they following social distancing. So the government reaction to these things, we've seen a variety across the globe. So the students who are in the fields of political science, who are in these fields of governance, and who are in law, in the legal fields, they have a learning experience as well. And people like Dr. Ram, who are poets and in literature and in the humanities, also are reacting to what this is doing to change the world. And together in a multidisciplinary way, universities can form centers for this to address sustainable development and how climate change is going to impact the world, and what types of solutions we have to come up with to deal with these pandemics that are going to increasingly happen. So that is where the best minds around the world are going to be in greater demand more than ever. And it's most important for every country to educate as many students as possible in the university system. So Shobhit University and all universities around the world, that is your number one mission, is to educate the young people so that they can find the solutions to these global problems. And that is why Stanford University is offering to help every university in the world to develop this kind of a research center. And the other thing about this pandemic has brought us closer together through these webinars we're having. And this technology of Zoom and other platforms has brought us closer together. And so in one perspective, the pandemic has created a situation where every citizen in the world and every student in the world has to focus on survival, on making sure that the human species survives. And that is the number one motivation at this point. I tell my two sons, who are 38 and 30, that it's up to their generation and the young people in their 20s and teenagers, all of the young people in the world now need to educate themselves, and they need to work very, very hard, not be, they need to focus on studying as hard as possible, because if you don't study hard, you won't be able to solve the problems. And now it's a matter of survival. It's not a matter of getting a high-paying job and getting an apartment and having a new car. This is about human survival. So there's many metaphysical things that could be thought of from this, and I'll leave that to Dr. Ram, who will probably be discussing more of these metaphysical and issues. But I can say, as a practitioner of yoga, and I do have a guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, and my guru warned a long time ago that there was going to come a time when there would be a worldwide crisis. And in a way, on a metaphysical level, you could say that we're all being tested. We're being tested to see if our species can really rise up above all of these issues, come together as one family, as Mahatma Gandhi talked about. One family, we're one family, and we have to solve these problems together as one global family. So if we don't do that, if we all break up into nations and fight with each other and keep doing things that do not promote world peace, then we're not going to survive. So that's why Dr. Ram and I began the Universal Peace Institute 10 years ago. We're focusing on peace, world peace, and we focus on Mahatma Gandhi's ideas. As Mahatma Gandhi had the vision of one world, one family. And so in terms of this global pandemic, the one family has to come together, and we move forward with cooperation using our computer technology, and we will solve the problems. And who will be it? The young people. Again, Dr. Ram and I speak to many students in India. When I arrive in India, we go to many colleges, and we talk to students in business college, nursing college, and law college, and many other fields, engineering and science. And we tell the Indian students you will solve the problem. So I think that's where I'll end my remarks.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
I-
Sure.
Okay.
Professor Caroline, there's a question for you, and this is very
Sure.
true. We are a family, we are a global family. So, and we should believe in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. This is in Sanskrit. So, we all believe in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. So, there's a question for you, ma'am. If you allow, then I would like to read the question.
Okay.
Spanish flu, plague, smallpox, swine flu, Ebola, and now COVID-19. Could you please highlight on the common thread and what sustainable measures could you suggest for the global populace to prevent such dreaded pandemic in future, especially for a country like India with a huge population? So what is your observation?
Well, I've always said,
Actually, the question has been, please carry on, please.
First of all, Indian people are very strong. And not only that, you're the smartest people on the planet. From my own experience, from my experience teaching international students from around the world, I've always said the Indian students I had were the smartest. Not only were they the smartest, they were the strongest physically because they were doing yoga and they were eating Indian food. However, I do notice that Indian young people in India, in the big cities, were starting to eat McDonald's and Pizza Hut, and they're not as strong. The strongest Indians I see are the ones in the Himalayas who are in the mountains, and they are very physically strong. The ladies are wearing, big, carrying water on their heads, and they're walking very straight, and these are very strong people.
Very true, ma'am, very true. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is probably that you as a society and a culture, Indian culture is very ancient, and the Ayurveda, the yoga practices are very, very advanced. So you just keep doing your traditional practices. And, this is what will be spread around the world. Yoga is going global. Ayurveda is going global. And so Indian culture is moving across the globe. And I think Dr. Ram will be talking about that.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is very true. We have a very rich heritage. So by practicing such things, so we can just face any type of problem. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I just take one step forward. And now it's time to introduce our second speaker. Dr. Ram Sharmaji is an accomplished poet and writer, both in English and Hindi, in the field of literature. He has added many feathers to his cap. As a student, he has been an exceptionally brilliant student from class first to MPhil. He did his doctorate on postmodernist strengths in Indian novels in English, a study of Amita Desai, Arun Joshi, Amitav Ghosh, and Vikram Seth. He is a renowned poet, critic, reviewer, and translator. His poetry is indeed of very high order and read throughout the world. He has got 85 research papers published in esteemed journals of India and abroad. He has, to his credit, 8 poetry volumes, Muse, Serene Moments, A String of Words, Poets of World Peace, Volume 1 and 2, Anthologies 1, Lamp of Love, etc. Actually, there's a time constraint. Otherwise, I would like to read all the things. So this is just an outline. He has also contributed editing on 32 anthologies in English literature. He has attended more than 50 national and international seminars and presented papers. At present, he is working as associate professor and head of the Department of English in JVPG College, Baroda, Baghpat in UP. He is editor-in-chief in 2 international journals, Rumination and Glimpses. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Ram Sharma to share his scholarly observation and share his vision with us. Ram Sharmaji, please, over to you.
Namaste, ma'am. Am I audible?
Namaste. Yeah, you are quite audible.
Yeah, first I would like to thank Shobhit University for accepting my proposal to organizing this a lecture series on pandemic and sustainable management. I would like to thank Professor Caroline Heising. In spite of her busy schedule, she accepted this invitation. Dr. Gunjan Agarwalji, Dr. Ritu Sharmaji, I thank you all and all the participants. Professor Caroline Heising has raised 2 questions, which I got. First one is, she has shown us that booklet from Stanford University, which is forcing all the other universities that they should start a research center on this pandemic. And everyone should study about it, what it is, what we can contribute. In its place, in India, I am seeing our scholarly professors, they are giving lectures on the subjects. So we have to change this habit. The thing Caroline Heising even said a kind of collaboration. Stanford University is inviting from other universities of the world to start a research center on COVID pandemic. This is certainly a very important question for all of us for our existence. It's not a simple question. We can say that it can end in 1 year or 2 years or till 2023 it can end. I was reading one article. In that article, in India at presently, there are two mutants. One is called B1.617. Another one is also arriving, that is 3 mutants. That is called 3 mutants. And even if you are vaccinated, in that article it is given that that new mutant can still cross that vaccine. Even the chairperson of Pfizer vaccine is demanding the 3rd dose. He is saying that his limit is only for 6 months. So can we rely on these vaccines for 2 months, for 3 months, or every month we have to take the vaccine? What would be our future? Now we are talking about COVID. Even Bill Gates has warned us that there is going to arrive a new virus that can be very deadly, more than 10 times deadly than this COVID-19. So can we rely on these vaccines? I am not against the vaccination. I'm clearing it. I'm just posing a question. Yeah, the second question Caroline Heising put for all of us. We all are having a rich heritage. India has been a world guru. We have given such concepts like Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, let all should be happy. Vasudev Kutumbakam, all world a family. How many of us are following these things? Because these things are not just in books. This is way of life. Our Hindu or Sanatan Dharma is a way of life. We have not to read anything. We have not to follow anything. There are no strict guidelines. From since our childhood, I know that we followed this way of life. So I would like to start it from this book, Holistic Healing. This book was written by Swami Rama almost 40 years back. And what he has written is very true about this, our present situation. I am quoting the first paragraph of the book. Our modern civilization claims to be very productive, creative and resourceful, but 100 years ago, we did not have many of the diseases that exist today. 100 years back, there were not so many diseases. Every day, more diseases are being created. For although we are alive, the majority of us experience only the art of existing. We are struggling for the art of existing. We don't know the art of living. We have forgotten that. We know only, and we are struggling for the art of existing. Very few of us have really cultivated that technique, which is called the art of living. The reason for this is that life today has become very artificial. Man never stops to consider that he may have gone too far by ignoring his natural resources and by depending on artificial means. Living by artificial means gradually decreases natural resistance, and the obsessions makes modern man suffer more and more. He, in this first paragraph, is saying that by natural means you can improve your immunity. But now we are relying on the vaccines, dose 1, dose 2, dose 3. I'm not against any vaccine. Anyone can say anything, but that's the thing which has written in this book. They are saying the Ayurveda, which Caroline Heising has said, that we have to revive those traditions. We have to explore the things. By far we have come. Man's whole life seems to be kept busy in trying to get rid of self-created suffering. This suffering is self-created. If there are nothing higher for human beings to obtain than freedom for these ailments, there is no remedy in any system of medicine for such a self-created condition except to be aware of the fact that it is the individual who creates these miseries for himself, and that only he can learn how to prevent them. With the bounty of nature outside and center of consciousness within, we should be living in health and harmony. But having built boundaries both externally and internally, we have lost direct contact with the forces. We have come too far from nature. We have closed ourselves in apartments. We are living with this artificial air that is called air conditioners. We are not taking the real water. We are drinking RO water. All human beings have the inner potential and skill to be completely healthy. But in today's world, because of social and economic pressures, human beings have forgotten that all things happen deep within before they appear on the physical and mental levels. We must understand our inner skills and resources and use them as much as possible in order to ensure perfect health. These are the things given by Swami Rama in his book Holistic Health. And Swami Rama, Carolyn, you know very well, belongs from Uttarakhand, and he is running that Himalayan Institute, which is also making Himalayan drugs, Himalayan Ayurvedic drugs. I would like to start my lecture again from this wonderful article written in the magazine The Guardian. And its title it was written by US biologist Thomas Lovejoy, who is a professor of environmental science at George Mason University in United States. And what was the topic of this paper? Intrusion into nature led to pandemic. We can say that China is responsible, or that country is responsible, or that community is responsible. But these things are going on from the last 100 years. We have cut so many trees. We don't know the importance of trees, that these trees are giving to us the oxygen. We have no importance of water. We are just destroying the water every day. I don't know what is the definition of Kaliyug. Kaliyug means when we don't know anything, how to walk, how to talk, how to care ourselves. That is Kaliyug, means the sleeping stage. Everything is being taught to you. The sleeping stage, we are living in it. When we don't know, every information is being implanted from outside to you, and you don't know anything. So in that article, it is written, vast illegal wildlife trade and humanity's excessive intrusion into nature is to blame the coronavirus pandemic. Before coronavirus, there were so many other viruses. Ebola, Caroline Heising has told us, Ebola, Zika, swine flu, bird flu. These viruses came every year to us, but we kept on sleeping. We don't know Even more viruses are in the waiting list to come. 2 to 4 new viruses are created every year as a result of human infringement. Thomas Lovejoy, who coined the term biological diversity, I'm quoting from that article, the pandemic is consequence of our persistent and excessive intrusion in nature and the vast illegal wildlife trade. Wet markets selling live animals as well as fruits. Pandemic. Before that, if we read, if we are the student of English literature, we have studied the poems of William Wordsworth. And in that one poem, he has said, the world is too much with us. All the time, we are doing only two activities, getting and spending the money. We have only know two things, how to earn the money, how to spend the money. We have to come out of these two activities. Otherwise, other activities will be sold to you and you will be as helpless as a flea in a spider's web. Humanity will be finished if we fail to drastically change our food system in response to coronavirus pandemic and the climate crisis. I would like to quote one more article. Jane Goodall has warned in The Guardian. She has also written one more article in The Guardian. Jane Goodall. She blamed the emergence of COVID-19 on the overpopulation or overexploitation of the natural world, which has seen forests cut down, species made extinct, and natural habitats destroyed. I am quoting from her. We have brought this on ourselves. It is ourselves. It's not from other ones. It is responsible. If we count the responsibility, it is all of us. We have brought this on ourselves because of our absolute disrespect for animals and environment. Our disrespect for wild animals and our disrespect for farmed animals has created this situation where disease can spill over to infect human beings. Again, she is saying, if we do not do things differently, we are finished. She is giving us, all of us, a warning. If we are not going to change ourselves, our eating style, our living style, our thinking style, we are finished. These are the things we have to do. The research centers, which Caroline Heising has told us or advised us that we should try to do. We can't go on very much longer like this. We can't go very longer. Again, I would like to say a few things, few data I have collected from after reading the articles. COVID-19, from last year, we discussed so many things, that plasma therapy will work, or remdesivir will work, or oxygen will work. Are these things really working? Have we made any surveys? Are these things really working, or vaccinations are working? We have to do survey. We have to do our mind. We have to make our minds how helpful these things are. Again, there is one magazine, EcoWatch. I have studied few articles from this magazine, and scientists warn worse pandemics are on the way if we don't protect nature. They are warning us that worse pandemics are on the way if we don't protect nature. It means that all of our energy will be wasted only for our existence. We can't talk about the economic progress, graphs, educational progress, jobs. We cannot talk about these things at present, but all of our energy will be wasted only for our survival, for our existence. Future pandemics are on the horizon if mankind does not stop it. I'm quoting from that article. There is single species that is responsible for COVID-19 pandemic is us, ourselves, human beings. As with the climate and biodiversity crisis, recent pandemics are a direct consequence of human activity, particularly our global financial and economic system based on a limited paradigm that prizes economic growth at any cost. Economic growth at any cost. We have a small window of opportunity in overcoming the challenge of the current crisis to avoid sowing the seeds of future ones. We have to study how far we have come from nature, how much we have exploited nature, how much we have destroyed nature. Can we return back? Is really a big question mark. Report on biodiversity and ecosystem. 1 million species of plants and animals are at the risk of extinction within decades. Government needs for sustainable and nature positive initiatives. Greed for allowing microbes that lead to a novel disease to jump from animals to humans. It is the time to relax environmental standards and to prop up industries such as extensive agriculture, long distance transportation, rampant deforestation, uncontrolled expansion of agriculture, uncontrolled industrial development. These things are making a big role for destroying this nature. We never cared. We just called it progress, progress, progress. And it's the real progress that we have to close ourselves within the periphery of the houses. And we are searching for vaccines. We are running after remdesivir. We are searching for oxygen. 1.7 million unidentified viruses known to infect people are estimated to exist in mammals and water birds. Any of these may be more disruptive and lethal than COVID-19. 1.7 billion viruses are there, they can be more lethal. Countries should strengthen environmental regulations, adopt One Health approach to awake the people. Business as usual will not work. Business as usual right now for pandemic is waiting for them to emerge and hoping for a vaccine. We are all just waiting for a vaccine. They will say, take the second dose. They will say, take the third dose. They will say, it's not helpful. We are making one more vaccine that will be helpful. Then another virus will come. Then another hope will be on vaccines. Choosing policies and actions that protect nature so that nature can help to protect us. Human infringement on a natural habitat, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem degradation are making virus spillover events much more likely. Joachim Spangenberg is from Europe Research Institute and is an ecologist and vice president of Sustainable Europe Research Institute. I'm quoting from him. We are creating this situation, not the animals. By disrupting ecosystem, we have created this condition as people move further into the territories of wild animals to clear forest, raise livestock hunt, and extract resources. We are increasingly exposed to the pathogens that normally never leave these places and the bodies they inhabited. Previously, we have seen such viruses like Zika, HIV, AIDS, swine flu, bird flu, Ebola. Example of the emergence of Nipah virus in Malaysia in the late 1990s, where deforestation drove fruit bats from their forest habitat to the mango trees, and from mango trees to pigs, and from pigs to for human beings. Trees to pigs, from pigs to human beings. Bats often carry pathogens that don't bother them, but in this case, pigs came in contact with the bats' droppings and saliva, they became infected. Health of the animals, the ecosystem, and humans are interlinked. If we are destroying nature, surely one day we will be destroyed. Wet markets, incubator for emergence of infectious diseases. There is a strong possibility SARS-CoV-2 emerge at wet market in Wuhan, China. Spangenberg says strict regulations for live animal markets. I'm quoting from him. We are part of nature. We are part of the ecosystem. Our health is linked to the health of wildlife and the health of the environment. Rising temperature and damaging corals in Australia and intensive cyclones and warm water has caused extensive damage in recent years. Many people understand and support emotional responses from scientists to what they study happening in the environment. They say that these are just sentimental people. They are just talking. We don't care. Even we don't believe on global warming. We don't believe on it. Now, all of us are facing this COVID-19. I ask from them, are you still believing this, or you just close eyes, just like a ostrich is keeping his head under the mud and thinking all is right with the world? Preventing pandemics, global warming, and environmental degradation. According to CNN, the Earth and its inhabitants face 3 global crises. Already we are facing 3 global crises. The first is pandemic crisis, the second one is climate crisis, and third one is biodiversity crisis. These massive global challenges, the destructive relationship between humanity and the natural world. Again, the climate economist Gernard Wagner has linked the pandemic to climate change. He said that this pandemic is related with climate change. Scientists use the term zoonosis, refer to infectious diseases like COVID-19 that spread from animals to humans. There are certain more questions. I'm also keeping eye on the time. Extensive, there are though Geneva conventions happened, and we have seen so many Earth summits, and I don't know the results. Even ozone layer is still there, or it has disappeared. No one is talking about that. Even big corporates or corporations, or even I think Carolyn, you belong to that Democrat Party. They believe in this global warming, but your other president, Donald Trump, he said that I don't believe in global warming. Am I right, Carolyn?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So we can just close eyes and say that I don't believe it. But now is the time for us that we do believe. There are no effective safeguards preventing a few powerful people. We have to not only force the government for Geneva-like conventions, or the people have to wake them up how they can help each other. It's not just running after the hospitals or running after the remdesivir or searching for the oxygen. We have to wake ourselves and we have to help each other just like a family. Caroline has really said a wonderful thing that our legacy is Ayurveda. In this country, where we have seen नीम जैसे पेड़ हमने देखे, तुलसी जैसा पवित्र पौधा हमारे घरों में मौजूद है, फिटकरी से बड़ा कोई सैनिटाइजर नहीं है, बबूल भी सैनिटाइजर की श्रेणी में हम रख सकते हैं। क्या हम इन चीजों पे विश्वास कर पा रहे हैं? अभी मैं एक वीडियो देख रहा था, हमारे माननीय मंत्री गडकरी जी ने एक अपरेटस दिखाया कि आप फूंक मारिए, उसमें एक बॉल उठ रही है, फिर दूसरी बॉल उठ रही है, फिर तीसरी बॉल उठ रही है, और वो कह रहे हैं इस तरह आपके लंग्स जो है मजबूत हो जाएंगे। वो हमारा देश जो सनातन सभ्यता में रहा, क्या हमारे फेफड़े मजबूत करने के लिए संघ से बड़ा कोई चीज हो सकती है? हम इसमें फूंक मारे हैं। अगर इसमें हम फूंक मारें, सुबह शाम 10-15 मिनट हम इसे बजाएं, तो हमारे तो फेफड़े वैसे ही मजबूत हो जाएंगे, हमें किसी अपरेटस को खरीदने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। ये छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं जो हमें करनी पड़ेंगी। और अगर हम ऐसे ही हाथ पे हाथ धर के बैठे रहे और विश्वास करते रहे कि अब ये वैक्सीन आ रही है, फाइजर, कोविशील्ड, कोवैक्सीन और पता नहीं कितनी और आने वाली, जॉनसन एंड जॉनसन, स्पुतनिक 5, हमें खुद भी प्रयास करना पड़ेगा। कुछ कविताएं लिखी थी कोरोना के ऊपर, वो भी पढ़ना चाहूंगा। कोरोना और कुरुक्षेत्र मेरी एक कविता मैंने लिखी थी। रोज रोज देख रहा हूं बढ़ता हुआ मौत का साया, और सोच रहा हूं आज आदमी ने इतनी तरक्की कर है क्या पाया। आग लगी है चारों ओर है कोरोना का शोर। यह है एक आग का घेरा जिसने हमें है आज आकर घेरा। आज आदमी रहा है भाग देखकर आदमी को। मौत का साया पल पल है बढ़ रहा। रास्ते दरवाजे सब हैं बंद। बेचारे सूरज चांद सितारे ही हैं बुलंद। ऐ मेरे दोस्तों कस लो अपनी कमर बांध लो अपने सरों से कफन। नहीं मिटने देना है अपने आप को। लड़ना है मरते दम तक कोरोना से। घर में मत सोते रहो जगते रहो और जगाते रहो। अल्लाह की ये साहस की जगाते रहो। दीपक प्रेम और मानवता का जलाते रहो। घर से ही प्रकृति प्रेम का कर दो तुम शंखनाद। करेंगे हम प्रकृति को फिर से आबाद। अर्जुन तू आज फिर खड़ा है कुरुक्षेत्र में। भागना नहीं है तुझे इस रण क्षेत्र से। तुझे है लड़ना इस कोरोना से। और जीतना है और जीतना है। कुछ कविताएं और मैं पढ़ना चाहूंगा। एक कविता है प्रगति एक
Very
छलावा।
nice, sir. Very inspiring, very inspiring. Please carry on, sir, please.
प्रगति एक छलावा जीने की चाह में हम कहां से कहां तक चले गए। सोचा था यहाँ जीवन का आरंभ पर यहाँ तो हर पल चले गए। हमने सहा है और पाया है जीवन है बहुरूपिया। हम जिसको समझते रहे उन्नति अब तक वो है केवल छलावा आंकड़ों का डाटा। आज कम हो गए पॉजिटिव केस कल बढ़ गए। आज कम हो गए डेथ कम हो गई रिकवरी रेट बढ़ गई। हम जिसको समझते रहे उन्नति अब तक वह केवल है छलावा आंकड़ों का। वास्तव में ही हमसे कुछ भूल हुई है। वास्तविक प्रगति अब भी मानव से बहुत दूर है। जीवन थोड़ा है पर काम बहुत। ऐसे में आराम कहाँ। चलने का नाम है जिंदगी रुकने का फिर काम कहाँ। आओ बैठे नदी किनारे गीत पुराने फिर दोहराएं। प्रकृति की स्वप्निल नगरी में मन के सोए तार जगाएं। वापस लौटना पड़ेगा हमें उस प्रगति और प्रकृति दोनों को हमें साथ लेके चलना पड़ेगा। एक और कविता मैंने लिखी थी आओ अब लौट चलें। अब समय आया है हमें लौटने का। आगे बढ़ते रहे तो पता नहीं ये वैक्सीन हमारी कितनी हेल्प कर पाएंगी मुझे तो नहीं मालूम। आओ अब लौट चलें उस दिशा में जिस दिशा से हम आए हैं। उस जीवन में था गो गंगा गायत्री। गो माता भी थी घरों में रहती थी। मेरे घर में भी मैं पला बड़ा हूँ। गाय थी भैंस भी थी। गंगा गंगा माता का कितना महत्व था। घरों में गंगा जल रहता था और गायत्री गायत्री का पाठ होता था हवन होता था। सत्य सादगी सदाचार अब तो है बस छल कपट और भ्रष्टाचार। आओ चलें उस महकते चहकते वातावरण में फैली रहती थी जहां मानवता की खुशबू फैला था। जहां प्रेम श्रद्धा व भक्ति भाव जहां था प्रकृति का एक मेव एक छत्र राज। नहीं था कहीं भी नाम प्रदूषण का। आओ लौट चलें उस दिशा में जिस दिशा से हम आए हैं। आओ लौट चलें उस दिशा में जिस दिशा से हम आए हैं। हमें सोचना पड़ेगा कि हम अपने लिए क्या कर सकते हैं। जब तक हम अपने लिए हम अपना भला हम स्वयं नहीं करेंगे। एक कहावत भी है गॉड हेल्प्स दोज हु हेल्प्स देमसेल्व्स। हमें स्वयं खड़ा होना पड़ेगा। जितनी हेल्प हमें अपनी सनातन सभ्यता संस्कृति से हमें मिल सकती है इस कठिन वातावरण में पूरा हमें उससे सहयोग लेना पड़ेगा। आई एम नॉट अगेंस्ट एनी वैक्सीनेशंस। आई एम नॉट अगेंस्ट दीज allopathic drugs. I am just trying to say that you revive yourselves, your ancient heritage. एक बुक है मेरे मित्र ने यूएसए से भेजी थी। सुंदरम मैडम भी जानती हैं उनकी ये बुक है वेयर सोल्स ड्रीम गॉड वेयर सोल्स ड्रीम गॉड। ये देखो गंगा जी का वो बैठे हुए हैं साधु बन के जो प्रोफेसर थे कभी यूएसए में। गंगा जी के किनारे वो बैठे हुए हैं और इस यात्रा के बाद इन्होंने ये पुस्तक लिखी है। इसी में एक कोट है दया माता जो एसआरएफ की वो रही। हैड यू नो कैरोलिन दया माता एंड व्हाट शी हैज रिटन ओ इंडिया हाउ आई लव यू। एक पैरा लिखा है उन्होंने ओ इंडिया हाउ आई लव यू। दया माता अमेरिकन थी। उनका रियल नेम आई डोंट नो। कैरोलिन विल टेल। कैरोलिन Can you know the real name of Daya Mata? Because this is the given name to her.
I can't remember right now. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, you look it up. Till then, I'm quoting from her. Oh India, how I love you. What mysterious force in you calls faith, my love. You are not always clean outwardly. Your climate is not the best. Your heat is unbearable. Your rains are miserably uncomfortable. Your creature comforts are nil as compared to the West. But you have a towering spiritual strength. And there is the tenderness of the mother in you as you welcome all visitors to your source. Your imperishable greatness has been best expressed in the lives of your saints. Sri Ram, Sri Krishna, Buddha, Chaitanya, Babaji, Lahiri Masai, Sri Yukteswar ji, and our own divine Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda. So you can see a devotee from USA is seeing that the climate of India is not good and there is no cleanliness. But here still we have the towering spiritual strength that makes India a different from other countries. So it's time for us to do different things, not leaving our ancient heritage, which kept us alive from so many years. Don't you believe that 1000 years there was no viruses? हवन यज्ञ ये परिकल्पना जो हमने दी विश्व को, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिने की जो कॉन्सेप्ट दी, क्या उस समय वायरस नहीं होते होंगे? लेकिन उन लोगों ने they made the concept सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिने. अंतरिक्ष शांति, पृथ्वी देव शांति, वनस्पतिया शांति. Let there be peace everywhere. उन्होंने जो परिकल्पना की पीस की, let there be peace everywhere. We have to create that positive environment. I know each of us are suffering from this pandemic so hard. I myself is suffering, but still I am hopeful. I would like to end my lecture with one of my poem from this poetry collection, Lamp of Love. And the title of the poem is World Will Change with Your Love. The dark night will disappear within the glittering dawn. The world will change with your laugh. Open all your eyes with positivity. The ferocious storm will change into a cool breeze. The flowers of feeling will open and blossom. The vines of love will ever grow strong. Consciousness of prayer shines upon the darkness of night. The dark night will disappear within a glittering dawn. The world will change with your love. The world will change with your love. We have not to forget this smiles, laugh, our positivity. There is, I admit, darkness is all around, but we all of us have the light inside of our heart. And that is the light of our humanity. That is the light of our love. That is the light of our compassion. We have not to stop these things. We have to lit more lamps. We have to create more positivity. We have to make ourselves more strong. Save nature, save earth, save yourselves. Save earth, save nature, save yourselves. In the end, I would like to thank each of us. Professor Caroline Heising is very early time there. I think she got up around 6 a.m. in the morning. Professor Gunjanji, Ritu Sharmaji, and I thank Shobhit University and all the participants. And I pray for all of you that all should be happy, safe, and let's start more research centers, more works, more lectures on this pandemic, and we will do it. We will do it. We know it. We will do it. Thank you. Namaste. Pranam.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It was a great and interesting session for us. इतनी सारी बातें आपने बताई that we are facing this pandemic and we are also responsible for this situation. You said, you told us about please save the nature, and you said and told about us that we are destroying the water, we are cutting the trees. So this is the main thing, that we are destroying our nature, we are destroying our survival things, we are dependent on that things. But now in those days we need Ayurveda, we need all the जैसे आप कह रहे ना देसी नुस्खे, उनकी जरूरतें हमें पड़ रही हैं अभी।
मैम वो वे ऑफ लाइफ
लोग
था,
सब
हम बाहर ही नहीं थे उससे, वो तो सब हमारे
जी।
किचन में मौजूद था। हम खुद ही इतने लेथार्जिक हो
जी।
गए हैं कि हम सोच रहे हैं कि हर चीज
जी,
हमें
जी।
हम सिर्फ पैसा कमाएं और वो जो है बाकी कॉर्पोरेशंस वो सब चीजें आके हमें बेचें। इवन वाटर और ऑक्सीजन भी बिक रही है अपने, ये समय आ गया है।
Yeah, sir. We are spending our time in getting money only. We are not seeing surrounding us. So now, if you permit me, there is a question for you, sir. Could I ask?
Welcome. बताइए.
Yeah. There is, as history tells, the various pandemics have their genesis in the nature, and more precisely the law of nature. It's nature's way of balancing the ecology and environment. Are these pandemics prevent?
Can you repeat the question, ma'am? Your second part was not audible.
Okay, I just read.
Yeah, ma'am.
Maybe there's technical issue.
Yeah.
As history tells, the various pandemics have their genesis in the nature, and more precisely, the law of nature. It's nature's way of balancing the ecology and environment. Are these pandemics preventable by simple resorting to the traditional ways of living and resorting to organic agriculture, Ayurveda, yoga, and proactive use of natural resources? I think you have already given us so many things. You have already. So
yeah,
please,
I think
within few 1 or 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, ma'am. It's a question for all of us. You just make a survey, ma'am, of villages. I came from my village 20-30 years back. In my village there was no doctor available, no medical stores. Now I am living in city. There is one nursing home only 500 meters from my house. There are so many medical stores, so many doctors are available, and we have no secure future. I don't know what's going to happen to me next day. So that was the progress, or this is the progress? हमें आज तक नेचर नहीं पाला है, बड़ा किया है, क्योंकि हमने नेचर की रेस्पेक्ट की है। जब हमने नेचर को डिस्ट्रॉय किया है, नेचर ने रिवेंज लिया है। अभी ये पैंडेमिक हम झेल रहे हैं, मुझे डर है कोई बड़ा भूकंप ना आ जाए, कोई बड़ी बाढ़ ना आ जाए, कोई बड़ा तूफान ना आ जाए, क्योंकि पैंडेमिक्स तो चल ही रहा है। नेचर इज आल्सो रिवेंजफुल। वो क्यों रिवेंजफुल है, उसके लिए हम जिम्मेदार हैं। हमने सोचा कि हमने तो प्रकृति को कंट्रोल कर लिया है। अरे भाई, मानव के अंदर जो पंचभूत हैं वही तो प्रकृति है। हम जिसे भगवान कहते हैं, वैसे भूमि, गैसे गगन, वाह से वायु, न से नीर, ये प्रकृति ही तो है जिसे हम भगवान कह रहे हैं। अगर हमने उसे ही नष्ट कर दिया, ये पंचभूत, हमारे शरीर किससे बना है? प्रकृति से बना है, इन पंच तत्वों से बना है। अगर हमने ये बाहर पोल्यूट कर दिए तो हम भी पोल्यूट हो गए, अगर हमने ये वहां नष्ट कर दिए तो हम भी नष्ट हो गए। दोनों चीज को रिलेट है। तो हम ये मान लें कि हमने जो है प्रकृति का इतना दोहन किया है बिना सोचे समझे। अभी समय है कि हम जागें, प्रकृति के बारे में सोचें, क्षमा मांगे कि हमसे गलती हो गई है
जी।
थोड़ा लाइफ स्टाइल आप चेंज करें और विश्वास रखें अपने आप पे। अगर आप पैनिक में हो गए, मैं देख रहा हूँ 20-30% जो डेथ हो रही है कोविड से, पैनिक से भी हो रही है। कोई पहला सिस्टम आया, पॉजिटिव हुए, तुरंत हॉस्पिटल की तरफ भाग गए। वहां पूरे पूरे दिन बैठे हुए हैं, वो फर्स्ट एड नहीं मिल रही है, बेड नहीं मिल रहा है, ऑक्सीजन नहीं मिल रही है, आप उन्हें कोई फर्स्ट एड नहीं दे पा रहे हैं। आपकी आपकी पहली ड्यूटी बनती है कि आप पहले फर्स्ट एड दें। आप ये जाने कि मैं क्या दे सकता हूँ, पढ़ें, जाने। अगर मैं अपने घर के किसी मेंबर की को फर्स्ट एड नहीं दे सकता, मेरी रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है उन्हें बचाना। अगर हम छोटा छोटा ये करें और इतने पैनिक ना हो, तो इतनी बुरी नहीं है। आज भी मैं होपफुल हूँ कि हम इस स्थिति से बाहर निकलेंगे। भारत वर्ष इसने पूरी दुनिया को रास्ता दिखाया है, मार्ग दिखलाया है। क्या वो आज उसकी सनातन सभ्यता और शास्त्र इतने बेकार हो गए हैं कि वो उससे कुछ भी ना सीख पाए, कोई शिक्षा ना दे पाए? मैं देखता था, मुझे मालूम है कि छोटा था, गांव में बड़े बड़े हवन होते थे, घर घर में छोटे छोटे हवन होते थे, शंख भी घरों में रखे जाते थे, कपूर जलाया जाता था सुबह शाम, किचन थेरेपी होती थी। जो लेडीज होती थी वो बताती थी कि ये हो गया तो आप ये ले लो। क्या आपको नहीं लग रहा कि आप वो चीज छोड़ चुके हैं और उन चीजों को छोड़ के एक आप नई दुनिया में आ गए हैं, जहां आपका समय मोबाइल, व्हाट्सएप, फेसबुक, टेलीविजन। अरे भाई, इनसे थोड़ा थोड़ा समय आप निकाल लो, सुबह शाम कपूर जला लो, नाक में सरसों का तेल डाल लो, प्राणायाम कर लो, शंख बजा लो, सुबह शाम हवन कर लो, वैक्सीन भी लगवाइए, आप बच जाएंगे। इतना बड़ा पैनिक नहीं है कि हवा में आया, आपके नाक में घुरा, मर गए अगले दिन। आप अपने अपने घरों को पवित्र कर लीजिए, शुद्ध कर लीजिए, वातावरण शुद्ध हो जाएगा। अपने अपने घरों की आप जिम्मेदारी ले लीजिए कि मैं कपूर सुबह शाम जलाऊंगा, कपूर नहीं है तो नीम के पत्ते जलाऊंगा, बबूल के पत्ते जलाऊंगा, प्रार्थना करूंगा, अपने आप का कोई ऐसा क्लीनलीनेस, हाथ धोऊंगा, सैनिटाइजर, फिटकरी से बड़ा कोई सैनिटाइजर नहीं, एक बाल्टी खोल के आप रख लीजिए, पोछा लगा लीजिए, हाथ धो लीजिए, नहा लीजिए। इवन आप कुल्ला कर लेंगे तो आपके टीथ भी मजबूत रहेंगे। तो जब चीजें आप ये छोड़ ही चुके हैं, विश्वास ही आपका नहीं है इन चीजों पे, आपका विश्वास एक सैनिटाइजर पे है जिसका मुझे नहीं पता क्या है उसके अंदर, वो सैनिटाइज कर रहा है या नहीं कर रहा। अभी 1 साल बाद उसका सर्वे आ जाएगा, स्टडी आ जाएगी कि आपके हाथ में कैंसर हो गया क्योंकि आपने 4 बार केमिकल यूज किया,
सैनिटाइजर यूज कर
फिर आप उसकी दवाई लीजिएगा। आरओ जो आपके घरों में लगे हैं, आपको शायद मालूम नहीं होगा, वही कंपनी जो है कैल्शियम की गोलियां भी बना रही है। पहले आपके शरीर से पानी के थ्रू मिनरल्स कम करके आपके अंदर हड्डियों को कमजोर कर रही है वो कंपनी, और फिर कैल्शियम की गोलियां बना रही है। गोलियां भी खाई। इस जाल से बाहर निकलना है हमें, आपको इस जाल से बाहर निकलना पड़ेगा। इससे बाहर निकल के हमें सोचना पड़ेगा। फॉर ग्रांटेड जो भी मैं बता रहा हूँ, नेचुरल थिंग्स नहीं, जो भी आपको दी जा रही है इन्फॉर्मेशन, आप सोचिए कि वो कितनी सही है। मैंने जो कही है वो बात भी आप 100% मत मानिए, उसे सोचिए, विचार करिए, पढ़िए, मंथन करिए, उसके बाद आप एक्सेप्ट करिए। तो आपको लगेगा कि हाँ, चीजें जो जो बताई जा रही हैं, जो हो रही हैं और जो आगे होनी है, वो शायद आपको क्लैरिटी हो जाएगी। थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू वेरी मच। मैंने जो है थोड़ा समय ज्यादा भी ले लिया जी।
It's okay, sir, but we enjoyed the session.
जी
Please.
Yeah. नहीं सर, well said, well said. सही कह रहे हैं. We need to educate the people for natural things, for our surroundings, our environment. We have to create that environment actually.
अभी मैडम एक छोटी सी घटना, आप एक छोटी सी घटना देखिए। घर पे एक वृद्ध महिला को बीपी बढ़ गया एकदम, वो तुरंत हॉस्पिटल भागे। फर्स्ट एड नहीं दे सकते वो। मैं तो अपने यहाँ होम्योपैथी की दवाई रखता हूँ, 4 बूंद आप डाल लीजिए, राइबोफ्लोरा सर्पेंटाइना का, हाई बीपी 5 मिनट में कम हो जाएगा। लेकिन वो कोई फर्स्ट एड नहीं दे पाए, हॉस्पिटल भागे, डॉक्टर उपलब्ध नहीं था, दिमाग की नस फट गई और डेथ हो गई। कौन जिम्मेदार है इसके लिए? मैं जिम्मेदार हूं ना कि मैं फर्स्ट एड नहीं दे पाया, या वो डॉक्टर जिम्मेदार है जो किसी और के ट्रीटमेंट में लगा है? तो इतनी तो कम से कम नॉलेज हमें होनी चाहिए कि छोटी मोटी चीजें तो हम खुद ही कंट्रोल कर लें, खुद पढ़ लें, खुद अपना ज्ञान बढ़ा लें.
Yeah, very true.
तो
We
ये
have to
मानता
go.
हूँ
Very true.
अपने भी
We have
हेल्प
to
करें
go
और
back. Yeah.
जो आपकी
सबकी
मेहनत
help करें. Yeah. We have to go back to nature if we really want to survive in a good manner, and
जी
we really want to live a very healthy and happy life.
जी
I think these things are very your tips. Actually, we are very very acquainted with the things, but the thing is, we have forgotten our ancient culture and traditions. Now we are trying to revive all these things, and now really a very
नहीं
wonderful
मैम
session. Yeah,
जी
please, please. Hanji. So
अगर
I
समय हो तो मैं एक चीज और मैं आपसे कहूँगा. आप सभी लोगों के लिए क्वेश्चन मैं छोड़ रहा हूँ.
जी please.
सिर्फ 1 मिनट. हम अपने कपड़ों पे, अपने घर के रख रखाव पे, टाइल्स, फर्श, अपने कपड़ों पे कितना खर्च कर रहे हैं और जो हम खा रहे हैं वो कितना शुद्ध है और कितनी मात्रा में क्या क्या खा रहे हैं. आप दोनों का एक चार्ट बना लेना तो उसमें आप पाएंगे कि कपड़े तो आप ब्रांडेड पहन रहे हैं, लेकिन जो फल, सब्जी, दूध, थैली का 4-5 दिन पुरानी सब्जियां वो खा रहे हैं. अरे भाई पहला सुख निरोगी काया. अगर आपका शरीर स्वस्थ नहीं रहा तो ये कपड़े और घर किसी काम के नहीं है.
And we have forgotten कि जैसा खाओ और वैसा होए मन. This is Indian culture. हमें यही सिखाया गया है. So now it's time constraint. So I have to just present my vote of thanks, being the host and dean social, dean of the school. Now it's my pleasure to present vote of thanks for today's webinar. I'm very thankful to our respected speakers for taking the time out of their busy schedule for us. They have enlightened us with their knowledge. I'm very much sure about it that today's session is full of scholarly vision and given us deep insights into the topic, and also revealed various aspects related to the cure and how to face such things or pandemic-like things. Again, I would like to thank Professor Carolyn and Dr. Ram Sharma for this fruitful and wonderful session. I'm thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and respected Registrar, sir, for their constant support and unflinching faith. And thank you all the participants for paying your attention, organizing committee, and our excellent technical team, especially Akhilesh ji. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. With this prayer, I would like to conclude the session. Sarve bhavantu sukhine, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashyadu bhag bhavet. Pranam. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.